Hello, welcome to our Friday live stream with me, Dale Davis. It is time to talk about purchase intent. This week, we're 7 days away from Dominate 2022. If you don't know what Dominate 2022 is, it is this just here. It's a virtual event that's going to be occurring from 9 a.m. next Friday. We're going to be talking about how to increase your revenue using digital marketing channels, such as SEO, content marketing, pay-per-click advertising, whether that's paid social or paid search, you name it. It's the perfect event for learning all about those. It's going to be with myself as well as several of our best ninjas. So we have Tim Cameron Kitchen, the founder of Explosion Ninja, as well as our CEO. We have Andrea, Freddie, Mark, Nick, and Wayne joining us from the marketing consultancy team and our client services teams, as well as myself and Jess Purcell from our marketing team handling a couple of things throughout the day. A little bit of housekeeping. So yeah, go sign up for that. It's going to be a great event. You can just go to explosionninja.com/dominate for that. Before we do get going, a couple of things, a little bit of housekeeping. So it'd be great to know where you're watching from. I'm in an incredibly sunny Edinburgh today, which is surprising because I live in Edinburgh, so it doesn't often shine here. But also, if you are active in the chat today and just tell me where you are watching from, you will enter yourselves into a prize draw for a copy of How to Get to the Top of Google. So this is our best-selling book. I've lost track of how many sales we've had with this over the last 6 or 7 years that it's been around. At least 20,000 last count. It's an incredibly useful book if you're trying to learn more about how to increase your organic traffic from Google. Also, if it's your first time here, make sure you do hit subscribe. And if you are enjoying anything about today's video and the presentation we're about to give to you, make sure you do hit like down below. And if you've done like and subscribing too, make sure you hit share so that more business people and marketing people like yourselves are gaining from this experience. Super. So who do we have? We have Jess from the marketing team joining us from a sunny Grantham. That's super. We also have Tara from Cincinnati, Ohio. That's super. Fantastic. Lovely to welcome you to the stream this week. But of course, we're not here to listen to me chat as much as I love to hear my own voice. Phil from rainy Tokyo. Sorry to hear it's rainy and shaky. That's terrifying. Lost Dodo as well from sunny Durham. Super, super. Again, we're not here to listen to me talk. We're here to listen to our guest today. Is Joe Barlow from our website development and conversion rate optimization team, who I'll be bringing onto the stream right now. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Dale. How are you? I'm sunny Derbyshire, so.
It's sunny where you are. Lucky.
Yeah, no, really nice. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Excellent stuff. So you're here to talk about purchase intent for e-commerce stores. I know we have quite a few people with e-commerce stores intending to watch today. So I'm going to leave you to it to take away and explain how to improve purchase intent for e-commerce stores. Whenever you want the slide to be changed, just say the word and we'll get it changed. So over to you, Joe.
So yeah, we'll go up. So quick one first. There'll be some questions at the end. Like I say, leave your question in the chat. I'll happily go through them at the end if I can't during the webinar, and you'll be in the chance to win our great book. So yeah, first up, the first slide, essentially the dev team where I work, an overview of it. So we mainly focus on Shopify and WordPress. We do e-com on both. So fundamentally, this is ad hoc development, which is smaller tactical fixes, things that, are broke our clients have, or, other people come in externally and ask for us to fix it. Full website builds, both template and bespoke. So template are using kind of a pre-formatted approach, but still with a great quality finish and great SEO principles. Bespoke builds are probably for a little bit more of an involved purchase process or something really special that you want, and they kind of cover exactly what you want as your end result, really. Crow, which is a big topic, but likes of that are A/B testing and then user experience improvement, and then other things like customer research, heat mapping, loads of different stuff in there. And then technical support and hosting. So this is our wonderful Jenny and John. They run our Stacks EP host. And then we also have some great stuff on WP Engine and loads of other crazy technical stuff that is above my head. And then we have a wonderful, wonderful design department who do incredible stuff for our website and also for clients' websites and external comms. So things like infographics, digital illustrations, loads of different stuff. So yeah, a mixed kettle of fish, but a great department nonetheless. And we work with all the others at EM. So yeah, that's the dev team. So this is a bit of a different one. So I think with this, it's really worth understanding the background of purchase intent and an overview of where it sits. So it's really about understanding customer behaviors. And the reason this is so important to you as a business and a brand is essentially that it helps develop a clear strategy to communicate with them. So different consumers, different types of consumer, different stages of consumer will all be looking for different things when you communicate with them. So with online sales growing every year and more competition with barriers to purchase occurring, this can give you a real competitive edge in how you communicate and leverage the brand to your users, and also to people who haven't experienced you yet, which is a really important thing when they're going through the stages and cycles of buying, essentially. So we'll go over that, but first a little bit more kind of about purchase intention. So next slide, please. So purchase intent is a big topic, and I'm going to overview it and give you some actionable insights. So this is the aim of today for me, is to give you some things to go away with that you can put into practice or think about. But first, purchase intention really kind of starts in the 1930s, which is a long time ago, but it looks at attitudes and behaviors. So how do we affect an attitude into a behavior? So this is purchase intent is an attitude or how you feel about the intention process, and the behavior is the actual purchase. So an analogy towards this. So for me, I'm a really big hobby enthusiast, and I do lots of painting. There are brands that I advocate for and will regularly purchase. So for example, I will purchase a lot of scale 75 paints. There are other competitors in the market who I look at and I think, yeah, I like them, and there's something about it, but I never purchase. So that's the difference between kind of the purchase intent and the attitude I have towards the business. So my attitude isn't bad, but my intent to purchase isn't there. So this is kind of really where we need to have a look at and start focusing our strategy and what we do on the site to help improve that. So they don't continue to be the user that likes your brand, but they become the user that buys your brand, essentially. So this was then kind of explored much more deeply in the 70s, and some really kind of great work that looked at the theory of kind of planned behavior, which looks at your belief, attitude, and the formation of intentions. So that's a little overview there. There's a lot more to it. But next slide, we'll go into this a little bit more. So it's really kind of key to know that this isn't a new concept. It was really, purchase intention can be looked at in a physical store as well. And you should integrate it between your online and offline presence if you work like that. But, you know, fundamentally, it's grown to look at different things now that look at green marketing, luxury brands and products, B2B transactions, and online purchasing, which is where we sit. So e-commerce, online purchasing, and what that means kind of for you, essentially. So in terms of what it does and the factors that influence purchase intention, there are so many. It's not really a case of one thing. It's a case of many different things, and it will depend on what business you operate and where you operate. So there are things such as like stimulus or trigger. So this might be the cue or the element, the stimuli that triggers someone to buying a particular product or brand if you also offer multiple brands. And this might be kind of an attribute. It might be the way that the brand's packaged, the way that it is sold in terms of what it has. So if you think on e-commerce, a really great example of this is two sites that sell the same product. One has this, so they have the same imagery, but one set of imagery is not very distinct. It's quite blurry. It's not particularly legible, and it's not really very good quality, essentially. And the other one has really great crisp imagery, works at different sizes, and really visually shows the product. This might be the kind of stimulus that someone needs to buy that product, because they can clearly see it and it looks a better benefit to them. The other one is kind of outcome expectation. This is really important if you serve a luxury brand or a luxury audience. So this is kind of to do with perceived value of the product, essentially. So we all know that luxury brands operate at a higher cost. They have different factors that people buy to them, and they're often aspirational. So the t-shirt itself, if you buy a big brand, for example, Gucci, will be the same fundamentally, the t-shirt, as if you bought a lower end product, but the perceived value of what you're getting is quite different. So that might be one aspect of purchase intention that you need to look at. Aspirational value is this, so the aspirations for a luxury car. Recommendation, this is a huge one that can really influence it. Word of mouth, reviews, trust signals, these are really big factors that can influence people's purchase behavior on your site and before they even get to you. So this is why we really advocate for this, and we really speak about how you should install this in the site. And I'll go through some of the methods and things that we've done at EN to help our clients achieve this. And then emotional. So people do emotionally connect with brands, and they create deep connections. They become brand ambassadors. So that kind of thing is really useful to know the language to use and how to communicate with them. So other factors can be things like the perception of the product, the perceived risk of buying it, so something that's a really informed purchase, or might be a high risk purchase. Something like cryptocurrency could come into that. So there is quite high reward, but it's quite high risk. So mitigating the perceived risk could be a real big thing in helping to alleviate any friction and help improve purchase intention. So what does that mean for you? Next slide, the so. Next slide. What does it mean for you? What is purchase intent? Essentially, purchase intent is really can be boiled down into this: how likely someone is to purchase your product or service. So assessing the visitor that comes to your site, purchase intentions correctly can really help in the end result of converting that shopper. So you can do this by showing them the right recommendations, or suggesting the right assistance, or presenting them the right content. So this is really the act of influencing a buyer's behavior and really looking at the psychology behind purchase, which is a big broad topic, but probably my number one favorite area to look at, because there's so many things and minute things that you can do to create such a big impact on the end result. So first up, the big thing to this is to understand how to influence someone. You need to understand where they are essentially in the decision-making process. So the next slide kind of shows you how likely, like I say, the overall purchase intent, how likely someone is to purchase your product or service. Next slide. Yeah, perfect. So a low conversion rate in online shopping is widely kind of recognized as the biggest problem for e-commerce stores. How do you change that? How do you alter that? The online environment introduces kind of a lot of different barriers for purchasers. So this could be the perception of the site quality. So you've probably been on a site that you go on and you can see that it's quite old, or it doesn't work very well and it looks outdated. This could be a really kind of big thing in understanding where and how to influence their behavior on the site. The other thing is their ability to trust in the site can be a big kind of barrier to people's purchasing intentions. So what we really want to look at now is how to reduce the impact of people's barriers to purchase and what we can do on the site to influence those changes. So really, it comes down to understanding the consumer decision-making process, the things that you can do on the site at every single one of these stages to help improve that. So next slide. The decision-making process is broke down into kind of 5 key stages. There are other frameworks that extend this, especially since we've come into online. There are different variations to this, but what you will see here is there's simple decision making, complex decision making. So more informed purchases, more expensive purchases, purchases that might have a bigger effect on your life are likely to be more complex. And this means that you might go back and forth to these stages while you're doing them, because essentially it's a big risk or a big ask. So an example of this might be changing your mortgage. It's not necessarily going to be, boom, I'm going to take that mortgage. It's going to be going back and forth. And this is kind of why you saw a big rise in comparison websites, because one of the big things that people are looking for in the information service and evaluation stage is the different prices. So if you look at that compared to a simple decision-making process, which may be buying some toilet paper, for example, is a really great example of this, and also a really good example of need recognition. So need recognition is where you assess that you need a product. So you're in the frame to buy it. So you're on site, you're online, you're on Google, you're searching, or you're in store, or there's loads of different variations to this. But a great example of this is the need recognition. Recently, over the past few years, we've seen the upgrade of people using kind of Andrex toilet tissues and wet wipes. The need recognition can be created as well for new products, which is really useful in understanding if a new line is going to sell particularly well. So it's not that there has to already be a need, but you can create a need using content and other things on your site. So this may be a short or long-term product. So there's a big thing that there was a lot of short-term demand for kind of COVID things such as mask, cleaning. I imagine some of that will stay, but there will also be a drop-off now because people's need recognition for it, with it not being so prevalent, is less. So these can be variable, but this is where your kind of external comms or outreach essentially on your site, both online and offline, is what may be needed to help educate people that they need this new product or not, if it's a new entry to market essentially. So that is the first stage. But where we're really going to focus on what you can do on the site is the next kind of 4 stages. So on to the next slide, please. So information searching and processing is the top of the sales funnel, really. It's someone scratching an itch and is really just the awareness stage. So there are loads of different frameworks to building out this, but essentially what you can start to do is leverage this information intent with things like SEO and building that in, so you're starting to introduce yourself as a brand much quicker in the wider marketplace. A great example that we're going to go through now is things that you can do on your site for the user who is at that stage. So these are not necessarily less valuable to you than someone who's further along, but they maybe are going to need more help getting there. And it may not be that they convert straight away on the site, but they come back and forth to you while they build out trust and relevance with you as a brand. So a great example of this is on the next slide, essentially. Good. So great outreach, great blogs. So this is informational content. And I think sometimes what we see here is that people often see blogs as this entity that's there just to rank. And it's really not. People do really read blogs, and having great content that's optimized but also adds benefit and value to a user can be a great way on improving purchase intention. There's been lots of studies and research showing this, and there was some, that was conducted that essentially shows and demonstrates and proves that using blogs and online magazines is a great way when the consumer is exposed to this type of information, this type of content online, will help build out stronger brand attitudes. And what this essentially ends up doing is building out a higher purchase intention on the site. So blogs and outreach might not seem a direct way to influence it, but it really is. So what you see here is the great looking blog page that builds out a newsletter environment and an online community for this brand. And it's a real way for them to shout their expertise and show the value that they bring to a marketplace and to an audience on their own store. So if you don't have a blog, this is something I would look at. I would often look at underpinning this with things that you can rank for or the search terms that your customers are looking for. The key here is to make sure that it's relevant and going to add value. So while a really nice looking blog area or a really simple, great blog layout will help, make sure it's mobile optimized, make sure that it's relevant, and make sure that it's what the users want to read, really. And it's also great for populating through and driving people to the site on social channels or Twitter. So great thing you can do. Often overlooked on Shopify. I think people think that it's something that you can't do or it's not as prevalent because it's e-com. You can do this on a lead gen, e-com, Shopify, WordPress, and it really will help in the future. It's a long-term plan to build out purchases on the site. Next slide. So this is kind of a little bit of an overview on for how you present information on the site. So unfortunately, as online behavior has grown, so has the amount of people selling online. So online noise and people's attention span to your site can be limited. So if you're driving them to pages that are the home page or to pages that are specific and not a blog page, you want to make sure that you represent the information concisely. People retain visual information much quicker, and the use of simple and effective icons can be a really great way to do this with short, snappy copy to communicate the brand values effectively. So what you see here is on the T subscription one for a website we recently built, they donate and they deliver. So we communicated that because it's a really great value proposition that they can leverage to their consumer base that their competitors couldn't. So while some of these your competitors may do, there will be something that you do that your competitors can't. And this is where we want to shout about that type of thing. So another great example of this is kind of infographics and elements like that that can help improve this on your site. So if we go to the next one, you'll see this is another great example on Shopify again. And this really links into understanding as well what your consumer may not like about your site or what they're looking for. So on here, you see another tool that I've mentioned before, Hotjar. Hotjar is an amazing free tool. There are paid versions of it, but you can do this on a free one. And you can ask why someone hasn't purchased or ask them what they're looking for. Ask them why they've not engaged with you. It may take a little bit of time, but there's nothing better than understanding your consumer. And to leverage a really great strategy, you need to understand what the people on your site are looking for. So here you see great icons again, really simple and effective copy. Further down on the page, if you were to go on it, there's much more detailed and different CTAs running through. So that is one thing that I would definitely recommend on any site. Have a look over, see how you could maybe not alter the copy, but present it differently in a more visual and easier to digest way. So if I take you to the next slide, you'll see this and some examples of this on a product page. So product pages can get really unruly very quickly. And one of the big problems with e-commerce and what you have to do and contend with here is getting all the information without the scroll depth becoming really astronomical. So a really great example and way of doing this is tabs, and it can be a really great way on mobile as well. So what you see here is a great example of product specification. We've got a good description in there which helps rank because it's crawlable. You've got other options that you can do in customization, which other competitors that this brand has don't do. And then reviews, great trust signal, shipping and returns. All of the information someone wants is there, it's concise and it's visual. So this is for a user who is informational searching, but you're presenting it in that really clean, crisp way in one area. Compare this to a competitor who might have this over 5-6 different pages. They might have their delivery and returns on a completely separate URL. This can be a really strategic advantage and a really great way of showcasing the differences between products and also how you operate as a brand. And this goes into a later stage, which is retention as well. So you're really clearly showing the shipping and returns policy and building out that trust from the offset. So the next one, and what I might do for this one is go over it in a very short way, because SEO is a big topic. But what we show in informational searches and in our SEO can help guide and connect us with the right audience. So great on-site SEO, great off-site, great technical, and what you see here, great metadata. So what you see is what people are searching, and you're matching that and you're helping satisfy their need when they're at that informational evaluation stage. So add them all together with great content and get yourself to the top of Google. This is the kind of key premise and core beliefs that we have at EN, and these are really underpin everything we do in content and web dev and SEO through our campaigns as well. So this is a bigger one, but Dale, and there's some other video links that I'm sure we can share for you in the chat that will really help you to build this out on your site, and great tools that are free to help you do this as well. Next slide. So the previous slides have focused on maybe what would be termed less or high involvement purchases. So this is for a more high committal purchase, something that maybe takes a little bit of back and forth, a lot more research. So what you've got here is legal advice. Something that can be really great to do this is white papers. It demonstrates your expertise, and it also is a great way at leveraging yourself as a brilliant advice place for this. So giving this with the ability to get in contact and giving this with different CTAs that are less committal allow a way in for a user who is at that stage. And also, if you're a kind of technical site or you're doing high-end products and it's an e-com, you could look at really demonstrating the product specifics on these types of pages to help build that for that type of user. So I think a little bit further on, I've got a great example of that, and I will take you through it. But up next really is the identification and evaluation of alternatives kind of stage, and how we look at doing that and bringing out those kind of key elements on your site. So USPs and icons, I'm a big believer in them. We do look at them very quickly and we absorb the information quickly. This was a really great way for one of our brands to communicate what product specifications it had, why it was different, and what you can do. And it kind of creates a different communication level, and it can be more kind of emotional and resonate with them deeper as a consumer. And it might be something that their competitors don't do. So the products that have all 6 of these, their competitors might only do 4. So it shows you a great way of communicating the value of you over a competitor when they're trying to decide over you and alternative providers. So comparisons, great visual representation of what you offer, and communicating your value add is a great way of doing this on any page. So whether this is the home page, a blog page, or even a product page, you should be doing this. And really, there are some great frameworks to sit down and look at this. If you don't think there's a unique selling proposition to your product, I'm sure there is, you're just not thinking about promoting it in the right way. So have a think through and see what you could put here to help create and communicate your brand more effectively, essentially. And these can be done really simply, really quickly. They're not huge jobs, huge development work. They can be done relatively quickly and create quite a big improvement that can be measured on the site through either heat mapping or Google Analytics as well. So that's one thing to always bear in mind, is try and make sure that whatever you're doing or implementing, you can try and create a measurable response from it, so you can understand the benefit that it's had to you as a brand. So the next one up is the FAQ page. I'm a big fan of this. Depending on whether you're lead gen or ecom, you might have an FAQ page separately because it might answer questions about the overall brand or experience. But for ecom, you might have one on the page specifically about the product. So if it's an involved product or has lots of kind of questions that customers have answered or asked, should I say, on different channels. So you may have got these questions on Facebook or Instagram or even through customer services. Pop these types of questions on those pages. Answer the question someone may be asking before they have to ask it, because that's when they might drop out and go to an alternative, because when they went on their site, they saw this information displayed straight away. So I would really recommend going through and doing some research, speaking to your customers, understanding the types of questions they ask. There's no stupid question. There's no wrong answer to this. Having an understanding of what a customer sees on your site or a customer doesn't see on your site is a really great way to understand what you should be presenting on your site. So the FAQ page or an FAQ on a page is a really great way of doing this and helping evaluate alternatives, because it may be something in here that you can put about your delivery that other competitors don't, or something specifically about elements that they don't have in their makeup or their bundles or their subscriptions that you can communicate in here. So next slide. So this is a bit of an interesting one, and it's not one that everyone can do, but a free sample or incentive for your services. So there are multiple ways to do this, and it doesn't mean that you have to give away your product, but it may be your time or your expertise. And it also shows some real confidence about you as a brand or your products too. So for example, you see a free sample here, add a sample. We do a free website review, and it's a way for us to show and showcase and build out communications so people can experience us without having that full commitment to purchase, essentially. So this is a great way to do, not suitable for everyone, but there may be a way that you can leverage some form of offering or incentive for someone to use your services. So really great way that they might communicate or pick you over another brand because you offer that or your expertise when another brand doesn't. And then up next is my number one. I love it. Testimonials. It is a huge reason why people don't purchase on ecom, is because they don't think they can trust the site. So testimonials work in a multifaceted way. So whether this is kind of in a word of mouth way, or whether this is in a way to legitimize your business, having these on your site will help improve purchase intention, because it communicates other people's experiences of you as a brand or as a product. So there are varying degrees of effectiveness in terms of doing this, and also how Google will rank this. So if you look at using integrations such as Trustpilot or IO or reviews, these will factor in better because they potentially can't be manipulated. So if you can do these and build out these platforms, they're really, really great. I will say Trustpilot can be a little bit more expensive to have that type of flexibility, but Google Reviews is great. And this is where building out your Google My Business portfolio is a really, really effective thing to do and relatively free. I'm going to talk a little bit later on about how you can get some of these reviews, and it feeds into another stage of the cycle. If you can't get reviews left on the product page as a review, so you can do that on Shopify, it's a really great way of getting it, or put them in manually. But either way, you should be doing this because it's a really accurate representation of you as a brand. The other thing to say here is, and I think it's a kind of bit of the area that people don't like, or the uncertainty is, what if one of them's negative? There will be negative, and that's not a problem. How you deal with that negative can be just as valuable as someone's good review. So make sure you're empathetic, see if you can offer a resolution, and be polite. Don't leave it or don't answer to it in anger. Come back to it, and come back to it with a reasoned and relevant response. And there's some great kind of advice out there on doing this as well. And the next slide is just another example of building this out in a much more kind of bigger way, showing the review symbols, and then also with faces of the people who've left it, which builds a really kind of personal touch to it. So I would definitely focus on that. And these can be completed and built into a site in different ways and at kind of different cost levels as well. It can be relatively simple or really complex, but definitely something to factor in. The next slide really focuses on products that are a little bit more specific. So this might be trade products or elements that really need an understanding of how to use them. So a product seminar can be a great way of doing this, and you can feature this on the site. So it might be in process, so it being used, might be being installed. There are loads of different elements. You could also look at doing this as a lead gen or as a different kind of service operator and do a webinar on LinkedIn or a webinar like this to show your expertise and kind of show where you fit in the market and how you build that down. Another great one for this is the product specifications as well, uplink to it, so it makes it super easy for that user to see where you fit, how the product works, and evaluate you against competitors. So the next one, the next stage, the big stage, the purchase stage. There are lots of different consumers who are going to be at different stages, and the biggest impact that you can have to a business in the short term is the one who's much further along to purchase. But what I would say in this is have different CTAs that give people different ability to purchase or communicate with you in a different way. So what you see here is you have the online shop, you have the newsletter, you have the live chat. You have different ways for people to get in touch with you and communicate with you. And you also have the email and the number at the top. So really great, valuable way for different consumers at different points. And it's really important to remember here, stages aren't linear. So it's not need to end. It might be for some less involved purchasers, but big involved purchasers may see a lot of back and forth, and it might take just that ability to start a conversation to get them a little bit further along the funnel and engaged with you as a brand. Another great way to do this and open that conversation is on the next slide, and one that we regularly do here. It's a free consultation, a free website review we offer, but you could do this in leveraging your expertise in your business and your brand. You might offer a product and it might seem, oh, I can't do that. You, as a smaller business, may have the time and the expertise that a bigger brand don't have. So you might not be able to compete on price, but actually you might be able to give them that personalized experience, that personalized knowledge on that product. And a great example of this is it can be seen in clothing retail. Big brands operate because they operate a price point, but smaller brands and outlets still exist selling the same clothes, but you might go to them because you get a tailored experience. So bringing out that expertise and that kind of advice and that ability to contact you for it may be the way that you leverage the value that you add in the brand, essentially. So the other options here are, if you go to the next slide, you'll see estimates or quotes. These can be a great way of giving someone the information they want, nudging them down the sales thing for you to follow up with them when you're ready and communicate with them in a different way. So really good for kind of calculators or, having that. The only thing with these types of thing is it can have a little bit of a setup because you need to know and understand the way that the variables are going to work to produce that quote at the end, but can be really, really great in giving people what they want. The only trouble with those types of ones as well is getting them from the conversion or the lead stage on the site to actually producing an end result of a sale. So the next ones up that you see here is really just looking at all the different ways that you can communicate the purchase and communicate the value you bring. So you've got subscriptions, communicate how that works really quickly, really succinctly. Pricing, make sure it's really, really simple to follow. Make sure that they have no doubt along the way. If you use other pricing structures, make sure you put this in. Klarna is a great asset to have if you use it. The amount of sites that I see that don't really actually advertise it, and I'm a big purchaser on Klarna, it's in my buyer behavior. Often there are purchases that I would go, I'm not going to spend that in one go, but if I split it out over 3, I'm really into that. And I know that there is a big generational study that this really resonates with. So this might be something that can help break that down. And it doesn't just need to be what you might think of as a luxury purchase or an over the top kind of extravagant purchase. It might be something for your house. It might be a desk. I know that this works really well for people who operate in that field because it splits the cost and allows them to get a better product and builds in with their aspirations, or it builds into them being able to see the perceived value of it much more. So building out all those options and also the ability to contact you if they have any queries is super important. And another great one on this is the postage. So postage is really important. If you can communicate it effectively and show scarcity in it, so that might be, for example, order now to get next day delivery. This might be something your competitor doesn't do, or transparently show how much it's going to cost. That can be great. This can be achieved on Shopify using apps. So it might be at the moment that your store says shipping calculated at the cart or the next step. There are ways to get around it. So definitely have a look into that if that's something that may be a barrier or something that your consumer would like to see that tips them over the edge to purchase. So all of these things are really valuable, especially that they can be isolated and you can trial while and measure the impact, or you can look at it a little bit more holistically and target which pages you really think that you want to improve or how you're going to improve it using certain elements of these. So definitely use that. Pricing and postage are really key to gaining trust and transparency and removing friction. And postage will be a deciding factor when people are on the site that gets them from an intent to a behavior. So, for example, yesterday bought a new pair of trainers from a website because they owed to postage today. So I'd been looking at other websites and they offered postage and I could get it the next day and it was free, which was completely different to the others. And the reason I picked them, the core product, exactly the same. But the offering they had and the value they brought to me, completely different. Took me from intent to purchase on the site like that on the product page. So make sure that the intent of the page matches the user's expectations, especially if you're running PPC. So onto the next slide. And this is, without shadow of a doubt, a big one. And this is how you turn someone's lifetime order value or their lifetime value to you as a brand into a much bigger number. retention rules overhaul. You need to be following up, and you need to be communicating with your users and customers once they purchase. This is so important, and the cost to gain a new client is going to be so much more than maintaining and building an ongoing relationship with users who've already used the site. Likely they are with you and have picked you for a reason. If you lose them, they're probably not going to come back. So make sure what you're doing here, and it links into a question in the channel, that you're gaining reviews and you're asking for feedback. Feedback can be painful. It's not all going to be great, but you learn from it. And as long as you learn from it and you implement something that maybe doesn't save that customer for you, but saves the next 3, it's really valuable. So this can be done in multiple ways, but you can send an email asking them to leave a review. There's loads of different platforms that you can offer. Trustpilot, FIFO review, Google Business Profile, so many. But what I would say is pick one and stick with it. Don't keep trying to chop and change and spreading it over multiple, because there's much more kudos in having 100 reviews on one platform than 25 reviews on 4 different platforms. So I would definitely, if you haven't started already, pick one and go with it. Look at the cost implications and look at what it's going to bring as value to you and brand. And the next one to help with this, really, email marketing. We have a great head of email, Abby, here, and she does some incredible things. On the next slide, I will show you one of the websites that can be really useful to have a quick look at, something that you don't use, which is Claveo. And as you can see, retention is the new acquisition, and it really is. And email marketing can be a great way to keep in a cycle and create open communication with users of your brand, and take them from a one-off purchase to a repeat purchase, or just gaining valuable insight. And these can be set up and automated. There might be an initial kind of period where you need to set it up, but actually they can be relatively, in some ways, a lower input once set up, but may give you a high yield. If you want to run multiple strategies and multiple emails, you need some really great expertise and understanding to do it, but better to trial than not try. And there's some great templates on them as well. So I really would focus on this type of thing after the site, leaving reviews, keeping in contact, and making sure. One key way to do this is follow up in a couple of weeks and make sure that the product's working for them. If it's an informed project, you might want to follow up with product specification, a video, things like that will help them use the product and make sure that they're getting the best out of it. So that really is a big kind of point over it. On the next slide, I think you'll be able to click it, and this is a great way to do it. Abby, as I say, will give you some great advice on leveraging this. And then the final slide, which really links into what I was saying earlier, presenting warranty and returns information, especially for big purchases or people who are a little bit nervous about it. Having that on there and having it really succinct is great. It's not about alienating consumers who've maybe made a sporadic purchase or had buyer's regret, and we've all had it. It's about just keeping that communication open and being transparent. What it also means is they might come back to you as well in the future. So definitely follow up with it in an email if you haven't. So in your information email or your thing, make sure you put that in there, or keep it on the product page directly to it. So that's kind of the overview of everything that you can do. There's lots more. So now for kind of summary time. Really, it's about the 5 kind of stages of the buyer's cycle. And what you really want to do here is go over it, have a look at the pieces that are in this and see where they fit in. Isolate a couple that you can trial and test. Make sure you take the page URL so you can measure impact. Make sure you set a good baseline. And they are need recognition. If you need to be in this, you need to build the need out. It's a new product. but a lot of you probably are already there. Information searching, make it clear, make it succinct, and make it really, really accessible. Evaluation of alternatives, you should be shouting about yourself here, the value you bring. This isn't something that your competitor does, this is something that you uniquely do. And it also really, really may be about building out the trust of other people's experiences in your brand. The next one, purchase decision, clear pricing, clear delivery options, clear warranty and returns will help increase that purchase intention because you're removing that doubt. And finally, post-purchase. Post-purchase is a great way, and I really, really can't stress it enough. Retention and keeping clients with you is what takes them from likes your brand to loves your brand. And it's about building out that emotional connection and making people brand ambassadors for you. And it doesn't matter whether you are selling a low entry product or whether you're selling luxury. This can be done with all types of product, and it's how you communicate the value that you add and the service that you deliver, and doing that on the important places on the site for them. So that's my overview of how to improve purchase intent. And I really, really hope that there was some actionable insights in there as well. As I say, I'm going to go through the question and answers in a minute, but please pop any in. We've got a few minutes left, and you can get this great book. And if you want a free website review, please go on the website link below at exposureninja.com/review. We do a great piece there, and you can understand some more things that you can do with the site, or email myself. If you want to know a little bit more about your website specifically, joe.barlow@exposureninja.com. And I think we're just about welcoming Dale back.
Indeed, I am back into the fray. Joe, that was superb. Thank you ever so much for sharing with us. That's really insightful. There's a lot of subjects, parts of that subject covered that I don't believe we've had covered on the stream before. So super useful. Thank you ever so much. We do have a few questions that have been added in. I'm going to just go back in time and go back to the very, very beginning.
TARDIS.
Yeah. We've got Mohammed who's asking, does being transparent about where the product is manufactured or the cost increase purchase intent? Are people more likely to buy from you?
I think it depends on why you're communicating it. So I would communicate it. It doesn't necessarily need to be prevalent. I think if you're a brand that's operating in maybe an ethical or green marketing, organic way, but actually, and that's what you're kind of leveraging yourself as a brand and the value you bring, but actually you maybe aren't manufacturing in those practices or some things like that, I would be really clear about it. But I would potentially argue at that point there's a bit of a dissonance between what you're operating as versus what your customer's expecting. But yeah, be transparent. I'm not saying you need to put it on page one, but make sure it's accessible. If you mean the manufacturing cost per unit, probably not. You know, the way that sales work is that, you know, you buy at a lower price and sell at a higher price. So I think it's just about being reasonable. Consumers will evaluate your pricing of the product based on the evaluation of other competitors. So if you're selling one product at £100 and your competitor's selling at 60, you're going to have probably a harder sell communicating the value that you're bringing for that extra profit. I'm not saying that if you sell at a higher price, you won't be able to sell it. You will. There are places that I buy from that it's cheaper to buy online, or it's cheaper to buy on a bigger store, but I don't go to them for that. I go to them for the experience online, or I go to them because they give me advice and things that I couldn't get somewhere else, or for the usability of their site. So there's definitely a few websites that I can think of that cost isn't always the main driver to purchase. It's obviously relevant, but just make sure that you're communicating the value.
Super. I'm just going to respond to a different question, which is, can everybody see me? I think I messed around with my camera and I was missing for a short period. I'm hoping that people can see me now.
I can see you.
I'm the least important part of this. As long as you could see and hear Joe, then that's I'm happy. Fantastic, cool. Another couple of questions. So we've got, in chronological order, Phil asking, how do you actually get on Trustpilot or other review platforms?
I think if you take a look at my slides, there's a slide on there with a few different ones. Just Google them. Their website will come up. Go on FIFO, go on Trustpilot. Do the third stage. Evaluate them. See the benefits. See the differences. Let me know which one you pick and why, because it may surprise you why you do it. And that's what I would suggest. The very least, and I think Dale will agree, is I would definitely do you Google My Business one, because it's free and you can link it through and it's much easier. The other ones offer benefits maybe Google doesn't in certain ways, but 100% start the Google one and evaluate the others as well. At the very least, make sure that your profile's set up great, so when someone Googles you, they can see that there. Another great feature, not quite on the site, but answering questions on there that people have asked, so people can see it on your profile.
Super. Yeah, on that point of which ones you need to sign up for, or if you need to, I know with Trustpilot, I think they will sometimes do it automatically. Like I've gone to find originally R1, and somebody had already created a profile for us because they wanted to review us. Like a client of ours wanted to leave a review, and they could like just do it based on the domain address. So if there is already a profile for you, you can then go and claim it as a business owner.
Yeah.
The same for Google Business Profile as well, or what used to be called Google My Business. Even if you're in e-commerce, I know a lot of businesses will think that Google My Business or Google Business Profile is for local businesses. Actually, it's actually pretty decent for e-commerce too, just because you're claiming that space for your own and making sure that you're using it as a marketing tool. And you can do things like add products. Like I remember when I was doing SEO, like hands-on, there was a client that I added their product line onto it, so people could check it out from the search results and then click and go directly to the product page. So
transparency, I think, as well. Like we've all had that e-com bit where you try to get in contact with them and it's nigh on impossible. It's like a maze. If you Google them and they're there and their number, I would evaluate that either consciously or subconsciously when I purchase something, knowing that I can get in contact with them. So definitely worth doing. And I think the last one is about email marketing. I believe it works for them.
Well, before we move on to that, one note I did make was about you mentioned during that about having 5-star reviews, and if you don't have any, like if you have a 1-star review, should you be worried? There was a survey that I used in a presentation about 3 years ago, which was talking about how customer confidence was higher when there were when it was less than 5 stars. So if you had like a 4-star or 4.5 stars, like average rating, people were more likely to purchase from you than if you had a 5-star rating, because people see 5 stars and they assume that it's fake. Yeah. They assume that you've gamed the system in some way and that your reviews can't be trusted. But if it's 4.5 stars, that sounds more trustworthy. So yeah, don't worry about, as you said, Joe, perfectly. As long as you reply to it in the right way, in a professional way, then you've got nothing to worry about.
They might have some great information. Like if it has broke down the process or something's happened, learn from it. It could be the main thing. You might have lost them and they're not going to be a brand ambassador. Maybe you'll bring them back with the way you deal with it. But more importantly, the next 10, 20, 30 customers who go through that cycle may not have to deal with it again. And that is where the value lies in it. So yeah, definitely always trying to get feedback.
There's a company called Buffer who do social media software for helping with using social media, like scheduling, replying to people. And when I was first getting into doing like digital marketing, I was learning about customer service from them. I'd done customer service for like 10 years prior to that, but in terms of like internet customer service, it's a little bit different. And there's an article that they have, which you can go to that link and get it. And it talks about how they do customer support. And they basically, go so far, like the extra mile, to make the customer happy, even when it's a negative experience, that everybody learns from it. Like the customer learns that actually Buffer really do care about, even if you had a bad time, they really care about you. But also from the company side of things, they learn about how they can prevent that happening again in future. So nobody loses out. It's a win-win situation. Yeah, so there was a question from Lost Dodo, which was, does email marketing work with Gen Z? So they often don't open emails. I don't know what gen I'm in. I'm an old person. But I can tell you I've got 2,600 emails sitting in my personal account. So you're not wrong. But Joe, does email marketing work?
I'm sure that if you spoke to Abby and you look at that, it really depends on how you position the email. I actually... Probably not all of them. No, I don't. But there is a company that does email marketing, like a coffee that I buy from Dark Arts Coffee, and they resonate with me as a brand. And they do email marketing, and it's almost like ironic and kind of jokey. They'll send it you so it looks spammy. I click on that every time. And the amount of purchases I've done. So is it or isn't it? No, it's how you position it and whether it's relevant and right for the audience. I don't think it matters which audience you are. It's just about making sure that it resonates with them, and understanding your consumer and understanding where they are is key to that. And, there are different ways to market people in email and different ways in any form of content or anything like that. So just be clear on that, and I, would say no, not everyone, but definitely you just need to find the right hook.
I can tell you of like the 2,000 plus emails I have, there are a few in here that I know I've been subscribed to for a while. I haven't read their emails for a while, but I know that I like to still have them. So when they do finally put through an email subject line that triggers something in my head, it's at least there where I want it to be. And, rather than them trying to recapture me via another channel, which I don't really care for. Like, I don't want to follow them on Instagram because that's not the kind of thing I want to see. I don't want to follow them on Twitter because that's not the kind of stuff I want to see in my Twitter. But my email, actually, I know my email is like a sales area that if I open it, I'm going to get pitched to. And I don't mind that because I opted into that experience. So, I scroll through and I've got software co-schedule, which I first used in 2014. I'm not a paying customer, but I still keep their stuff there because I want to be sure. I want to know what's going on, and when they do something important like release a new free tool like the headline analyzer, I know about it. Hotel Chocolat, I haven't bought from them in a year, but do I want to make sure that I'm getting their emails through? Yeah. And when they have a really specific subject line that appeals to me, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to click on it. But So whilst my emails might tick up, I'm still want to see it there. Like I've got Shark Clean, I bought a vacuum from them 18 months ago. Love Honey, Resume Worded was like a tool for checking out your CV to see if it's up to scratch.
In touch, isn't it? It's being that connection with the brand. And there are ones that definitely released me what their new releases. So I make sure I'm on those so I know. And the amount of times they've nudged me into purchase because they've emailed me saying, this has just been cast today for a new resin model. There's only 100 units in stock. I'll be straight on it because I don't want to miss out and it's relevant. If they emailed me about, the manufacturing process, maybe I wouldn't be so engaged. But it's about pitching it to the right audience. And that's where I think your email lists and your segments and those kind of things come into play. So definitely watch Abby's one. I'm sure there's some great info in there. Or get in touch and we can talk to you a bit more through it.
Absolutely. Abby's presentation last week or the week before was super. And as Joe points out, it is linked in the description so you can go through and watch that. Plus, there's a ton of email marketing videos on our channel as well, so just go to YouTube and search Exposed Ninja email marketing or just email, and all of those will pop up for you to watch through. So you got two more questions, Joe, if you've got the time for them.
Absolutely.
Super. So we've got Phil who's asking, how often should you email people on a regular cycle? So how frequent is too frequent?
I think this is a really hard question. I'm sure there are some answers that you could get and we would give you some advice on it. But what I would gauge it on is whether or not people are unsubscribing and they're behavior tweaks. We've all had that email chain that emails me every day, and I definitely subscribe to that. And then I unsubscribe because I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. You're emailing me the same thing every single day. But then there are ones that email me once a month that I unsubscribe to because it's not relevant. And again, it's the value you're bringing. And, you know, that's the same as the site. It should be about the value that you're bringing to the consumer and giving them that information that they want when they want it. If someone's not interested in you as a brand, or someone that you're trying to retain and they've not had a great experience, pushing them emails to buy, probably not the best idea. Pushing them an email to give you some honest and candid feedback, probably going to go down very well. So, you know, again, it's intent to purpose, not frequency.
Yeah.
With anything, kind of like that. It's and then there's the law of diminishing returns with it anyway. If you fire out 1,000 of the same emails, you know, quality, consistency, and, you know, purpose, really.
Yeah. So I would say that, you know, keep an eye on your analytics. You can just fire out a whole high frequency emails and see what your drop off is like, see what your open rates are like, and adjust accordingly. Or you can let people just determine how frequently they like emails themselves. So you can give them an opt-in and say, would you like a daily email from me, or would you like a weekly email from me? You can, you know, people in some platforms you can set frequency, or you can just let people set their own frequency by they will just unsubscribe themselves. If they're not buying into your emails, then they're probably not buying into your product or service anyway. So they're going to self-determine how frequent is too frequent anyway. So I would focus on how frequent you can put those emails out, if they're relevant, if the people are segmented properly, and then just use analytics to see, you know, if open rates are high enough, if click-through rates are high enough, and so on. And we've got one more question, I think, from Tara. So if I drop the ball with follow-up emails, is it too late to send a follow-up email 1, 2, or even 6 months later?
No, not as long as it's relevant. There are purchases, especially if it's a long-term purchase, so you've got a year warranty. Dropping me an email to see that my coffee machine's still working in 6 months, and do I have this webinar, are you using it effectively? I'd be pretty chuffed if I got that. You know, they're not going to answer or they're going to engage. It's the thing, you know, this is the flip side of frequent, isn't it? It's infrequent, but if it's relevant to them, they're going to. But giving them the option to communicate with you if something's wrong and keeping them interested in you as a business, much of a benefit. And I think, just to link on to this with Calvin Yam, who put value equals discount, no. This is like a real thing of how you will leverage yourself as a brand. Not everyone can compete on price, and discounting the price and going lower. The value you bring as a brand is what you do that other brands or other businesses cannot do, or you do better. So doing this in the way that is best for you. So it might be your customer service, it might be your follow-up process, it might be your warranty and returns, it might be your postage process. There are loads and loads of different things. It might be the fact that they can call you up, Calvin, and they can speak to you. And they can ask you, is this product right for me? And you can go, well, actually, I've been working in this industry 20 years. No one really buys that product. It's a fancy name and flashy marketing. Actually, what you want is this product. That's really relevant, and that's value. Is it value because it's cheaper or more expensive? It's value because you brought something that they didn't have. Price, you're probably, in a lot of ways, not going to be able to compete on it if you're going against really, really big competitors. But the personal touch, I would argue, is what you can always compete on. So I hope that helps.
Super, Joe. That's been really helpful. Before we do cut off, we do have the giveaway for the book, which is now buried between all of my notes and my cup of coffee. So how to get to the top of Google. We're going to do a giveaway for that in just a second. Don't forget, this time next week, we'll be in the middle of our whole day stream of fantastic speakers and presentations talking about how you can increase your revenue using digital marketing. All you have to do to register is go to explosionninja.com/dominate, click this button right here, and just fill in information so we can make sure you have a link to the event when it starts. So quickly do this giveaway. Let me just make sure it's started. So Here we go. Good luck to everyone. If you do win, you could just email me, dale@exposureninja.com, and I with your postal address and contact phone number, and I will make sure that is dispatched today. Joe, anything you'd like to let people know about before we end the stream? Anything you got coming up, or you want to tell?
I think I've got another couple of streams coming up. I think I'm on the Dominate 2022 next week, so I'm super excited about that. If you have any questions, like my email's always open, joe.barlow@exposureninja.com. We've got free. Please get in touch. Like, I'll always spare 15 minutes to chat through this and go through and give you some ideas of what you can do on the site. Leave comments on YouTube and I'll get back to them. But again, thank you so much for letting me speak. Like, I love it. And hopefully someone can take from this some things to do and improve. That's amazing. And that's what it's about.
Well, thank you ever so much for coming and joining us, Joe. And thanks everyone who's joined us in the chat. It'd be great to see you all next week at 9 a.m. I'm very much looking forward to it. And again, have a fantastic weekend. I hope it's as sunny where you are as it is for me right now. So have a great time, everyone. Take care. See you next week.
Perfect. Thank you, Dale. Bye.